And as soon as that happens, I think we'll go ahead and get started because this was supposed to have started at 4:30, and we do have a quorum of county commissioners at this point. And so Commissioner Jones and I have a statement that we'd like to use to start the meeting with. We only have the room, first of all, until 5:30, and so we have a hard stop at that time. If there is time, we will take some public comment and public questions, but if not, people are free to email the commissioners at commissioner@co.monroe.in.us. I'll repeat that later on for you also, but I'd like to go ahead and get started. I will call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Commissioners. I will note for the record that Commissioner Jones and I are present in the Nat U Hill room, so we have a quorum. So we're here today to update the community about the Thompson project property as a potential location for the new jail and Justice Campus. Before we start, I want to state emphatically, no decision has been made yet on the location. Just to make sure everyone is on the same page, I'd like to review what's happened so far. We've held multiple public meetings, some with the general public and several with other elected officials. It was difficult for me to be in some of those meetings, but the things I heard have definitely impacted my thinking. So far, the general consensus is to have the jail co-located with other components of the justice system, the courtrooms, judges' chambers, and offices for community corrections, the public defender, and the prosecutor. Co-location, whether it is done all at once or sequentially, requires additional land. Co-location will also require space for parking. I and the other county commissioners believe it is important to have sufficient space to meet future needs as well. So with that in mind, we have been advised by DLZ, our design firm, that we need at least 25 acres. As you already know, some people want the jail and Justice Campus to remain where it is. Some people want it on the Thompson site, which the county already owns, and some people want it built away from existing residential neighborhoods. It's important as we move forward to remember what different entities have in where to build. The county council funds building projects. Since Monroe County already owns all but a few acres at the Thompson location, the county council agreed to support having both an environmental and a geotechnical assessment done. The county council is the body which will determine how much to spend on this current project, which directly impacts whether co-location occurs immediately or at some unknown time in the future. The sheriff has stated he favors co-location. Co-location requires less staff and is safer for both the staff and the community. The sheriff has also repeatedly shared his reasons for building a single-story jail. The city council and some of the judges have let us know they favor keeping the jail and justice complex inside city limits. For any potential site identified inside the city planning department and the city council will need to agree to rezone the property. We, the county commissioners, are in charge of all county buildings. We also approve all contracts, including the contracts for the design and construction of new facilities. Because we want to ensure that we truly understand what is needed, we have attended trainings, visited other jails, held conversations with our colleagues, and held community meetings in preparation for our role in the design aspects of the jail and justice complex and on its location. Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the public feedback we have received about the Thompson site. The predominant concerns seem to be safety, especially the safety of the children who attend Summit Elementary and who use the nearby parks. It's concerned about increased traffic, especially with the traffic problems already seen at school opening and closing times, and concerns about the impact that the jail will have on home values. People were also concerned about locating the jail near a Habitat for Humanity neighborhood. We want to respond to some of these issues and allow others, like the sheriff, who we hope will also come forward and address some of them. As everyone has already heard, the Thompson property is currently the only one inside city limits which might meet our space needs. potential site wasn't included for consideration because who lives in adjoining neighborhoods? It was actually purchased by the county over 20 years ago as a location for a juvenile detention center. That was before Summit Elementary was built and before many of the homes in the area were built. Regarding traffic at the school, we anticipate the two road access points to be Strong Drive and either the extension of Adams or a new street coming off of Adams. I recommend that concerns about traffic at the school be addressed to MCCSC, to city planning, city traffic and parking, and perhaps the Bloomington Police Department. And if Thompson is viable, I will now turn this over to my colleague.
The next steps we're looking at, we have received a phase 1 environmental study and have commissioned a phase 2 study of the Thompson site. From phase 1, we know there are karst features and quarry pits on this property. We just received the geotechnical report, which is being shared with DLZ. The geotechnical report should let us know things like the hydrology of the site, soil borings to determine the soil depth and type, and stability. We expect to have a report from DLZ on the viability of Thompson, and if it is viable, what the cost would be to build there before the end of the year. As has been said before, the results of these assessments may exclude Thompson as a site.
Last week I approved 100.
Excuse?
I think somebody was speaking.
Oh, it's okay, sorry.
Okay.
I thought someone was talking to me. As I have said, the results of these assessments may exclude Thompson as a site, but more than viability and cost will go into the final decision on the jail location. A few months ago, the commissioners, the members of the county council, county staff, the sheriff, and members of his staff, along with the presiding judge, participated in a 3-day training on the planning and opening of new institutions, which was offered to us for free by the National Institute of Corrections. One of the things stressed in this training was the need for a design team to determine if we want what we want in any jail we build, no matter where we build it. The design includes not only the number of beds and where the medical unit should go, but things like the amount of space for programming, the size of the day rooms, and the number and size of the recreation areas. Working with DLZ, the sheriff, and others, we are in the process of organizing this design team. Separately, the sheriff is putting together a jail transition team. We have signed a contract with RQAW, a different design company, to determine from a structural perspective if the current Justice Building could be remodeled and at what cost. We have also asked RQAW to give us an estimate on what it would cost to remodel the bottom floor of the Justice Building into a holding facility for inmates in the event that co-location does not occur at the same time the new jail facility is built. So what are our next steps for the county? Based on input from DLZ, the county commissioners and county council will need to determine if Thompson is viable and at what cost. If Thompson is not viable, or it is prohibitively expensive to build there, we must all work together to identify an alternative location. If a rezone is needed at an alternative location, residents will have the opportunity to weigh in on that rezone. If Thompson is viable, there are still the issues of access points and where on the property the jail and justice complex will be located. We will need to work with the city planning staff and city council on some of these issues, so members of the public may want to reach out to our colleagues in the city. But again, simply being viable as a location is not the final determining factor on where a new jail and justice campus will be located.
But no matter where we end up building, the issue of co-location and the timing of co-location are still going to be issues that need to be resolved. It is less expensive in the long run to co-locate everything at the same time. As we have said before, it is also less disruptive and safer for the community. However, it would require a much larger initial outlay of funding. It is up to the county council to make the decision on when and how to spend tax dollars, and this is another topic that residents can weigh in on. Regardless of the location, what should the exterior of the building or buildings look like? We hope the design team will come up with several alternatives and ask the general public to weigh in on the decision. We will also work closely with sheriff and others on the interior design and needs. Building more space for recreation, programs, and medical needs, all of which seem to be supported by local residents, will cost more to build. But if these lead to lower recidivism rates, this could save money in the long run. We hope you will let us know what your priorities are. I know we've covered a lot, but I would also, at this point, like to ask members of the County Council to weigh in. We have Member Jeff McKim here with us in person, and we have several members with us virtually. So are there things that you'd like to share with the public at this time? And I'm going to try to take notes. So.
Well, I guess as the one in person here, I'll take the privilege of going first. I don't have a statement. I'm just kind of I'll just react to a couple of comments that the commissioners raised, and then also I think that were raised by the public at the public meeting. First of all, I am glad that it seems like co-location, that there's a consensus that co-location is going to be critical for an effective jail site. I definitely support it. I think the timing of which is still up for discussion, and I don't think we have a good sense of the relative costs yet. I do agree that in many ways it would be less expensive and simpler if everything were planned all at once rather than having some kind of interim transit plan between the two facilities. But I think we absolutely need to commit to co-locating our justice facilities there. I know that we've received the geotech reports, and I have glanced through it. I don't have the technical knowledge to be able to interpret it yet. So I think a lot of these decisions are going to depend on how DLZ can tell us whether or not we'll have enough developable land once all these concerns are taken into account. Once we get to phase 2 and all these concerns are taken into account, will we have that 25 acres at least? Originally our thought was that there were probably 4 different developable sites on the Thompson property that would give us some flexibility both for the justice facility, but also for possible future non-jail treatment facilities. But we'll have to find out. I mean, maybe the geotechnical concerns might rule some of those out. So I don't know. You may have heard more than I have on this, but there were okay. So to go back to the public meeting, there were some concerns I think that either were or should have been eliminated once the public was informed that Rogers would not be the ingress egress for the. So for example, there were representatives for the Broadview area neighborhood. As far as I can tell, if Rogers is not an ingress egress, the impact on the Broadview area neighborhood is nil. I think the biggest concern is how to buffer the Osage Place neighborhood. I think that's probably the biggest concern, is to make sure that the residents there don't lose the value either in terms of money or just in terms of quality of life of their home. And I think that's that is a significant design decision. I don't think that eliminates, for me, the Thompson property as a site for the jail, but it definitely does mean that the design has to take the needs of those residents firmly into consideration. On Summit, it's clear that there are, for want of a better word, sketchy people who hang out behind Summit in the woods there sometimes. And I kind of feel like having a government facility, having a sheriff's department, and a jail is going to be part of the solution. And so I want us to try to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think we can be part of the solution there. So I guess I'll pause maybe and see if any of my colleagues want to react as well.
I appreciate your insight. If others want to join in, would you please raise your hand, or would someone let us know? I want to say that the geotechnical report is extremely technical, and I will have to have it interpreted. It's 65 pages long, and so I have started through it, but I keep having to stop to look up the terms and see what they mean. So, yeah, is there anyone virtual so far? Michelle.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, am I speaking now?
Yes, we have Councilmember Munson online with us. Thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm very happy Councilor McKim was able to be there in person and could be the spokesperson for the council today. I don't disagree with anything that he relayed, and certainly buffering the properties in the Osage place and addressing some of the residents' concerns there is important to I think everybody on the council. It is something doable because we have seen jail designs in neighborhoods in other places throughout Indiana, and in fact, people believe being next to a jail offers certain security to them, especially because the Sheriff's Department will be moving to the Justice campus as well. And I will second what Commissioner Githen said. The geotechnical report is daunting. I look forward to DLC's overview and translation of this into language that we can easily understand and the public can understand. And I think we just have to wait to see what that tells us. So there will be yet another chapter to look at this jail siting process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Munson. Are there others? And we do have one member of the City Council with us. If there's any comments that you would like to include or questions, I invite you to come join us as well. I don't want to put you on the spot, though. It would be helpful, yes. So we have City Council President Sue Scambaluri with us, and I thank you for being here.
Hello everyone, Sue Scambaluri, Bloomington City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, I appreciate that. Primarily, I actually have some requests. If you would, I would appreciate the opportunity, since I'm the only council member here at the moment, if I could have your written statement in written form. I mean, you read it in a public meeting, I assume you're sharing it. Because I'd like to share that in written form with council members, so I would appreciate that. Likewise, I'd also invite you to share the Phase 1 environmental and the geotechnical reports as well. I'm sure you'll be discussing that with planning and transportation, but I think it would be helpful, even with its technical detail, I think it would be helpful for council members to see that as well. One point I want to clarify, there is a great deal, I think, that brings agreement around the issue of a new jail. Certainly co-location is a priority, sensitivity to surrounding neighborhoods and the need for buffering, as Councilmember McKim spoke to, is important. As for location within city limits, when that preference was initially expressed, the preference focused on access to transit, okay? Since that time, the City Council has passed legislation that will allow, for arguably the first time, transit to exist outside of city corporate limits. So the priority, for some of us at least, was not inside the city limits for the sake of being inside the city limits. It was inside the city limits for the sake of having access to transit. So those who have family members or significant others who are incarcerated or tied to the jail have a way to get there. So transit, I think rather than looking at the issue of location in terms of being within city limits or not in city limits, I think we need to look at it in terms of access and transit being a part of that. So I would offer that thought around it. Beyond that, Council members Rosenbarger and Piedmont Smith represent the area and will represent the area around Thompson, and certainly they appreciate being kept in the loop. I appreciate your including us in this conversation. And again, we too are sensitive to the issues around location near neighborhoods, and I think the comments about buffering are especially well taken. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McKim.
And I don't want to jump in line if somebody else is wanting to speak, but I did have just a couple of other comments that came to mind, actually partially spurred by Councilmember Scambolari's comments. So first of all, transit. Yeah, I'm glad she brought up transit. And I kind of wanted to broaden the discussion of transit a little bit way beyond the jail, because actually, the sheriff has the full ability to allow or not allow in-person visitation for the jail. But where access from the general public is going to be incredibly important is once we co-locate facilities, is getting to court. Many members of the community throughout the community need to be able to access the courts and need to be able to get to court on time. And so transit is definitely going to have to be a key, I think, driver of wherever we are, wherever we locate, particularly if we have a court system there. The other thing, and this is as much a question as anything, the Thompson property is currently a PUD, and I know that a jail is a permitted use, so we don't need a rezone in the sense we don't need a change in use. But my understanding is that we still might need some changes or need to request some changes to the PUD. With respect to development triggers, is that right? I don't know many details about that. I don't know if you have any comments or anything, but so there would certainly be something at some point in front of the City Plan Commission and City Council, even though we don't necessarily need a change in use.
I believe, and I'm just seeing this from memory, the PUD requires pretty much all infrastructure to be installed kind of throughout the property, which is probably something the county can't really afford to do, along with building a jail and co-locating.
Okay.
So that is the main problem that I've heard mentioned with the PUD.
The road especially, is my understanding. I believe Councilmember Hawk has her hand raised also?
Yeah, she would know about this.
Yes.
Yes. One of the things that I've been concerned about and haven't heard any answer on this is that originally we had an agreement with the city. Well, that was many years ago. That once we built at the time we built the second building, we would put infrastructure across the 82 acres. Is that in place? If that's still in place, we need to determine if we can get it removed. And I would regret that we would spend a lot more money before we can get that answer.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
So basically, we still will be working closely, we will need to work closely with the city, even if we move forward on Thompson, for this, for the potential change in the PUD, if nothing else. But I agree, we should find out what our commitments are currently that we can't live with, before we move much further.
We will work with county legal and hopefully city planning to get answers on that. I think those are very legitimate questions. At this point, since we do have some extra time, I'd like to propose that we allow for questions and comments from the public. I'm not seeing anything. This is turning out to be a very calm, nice meeting, but I think it's also going to be, it looks like a short meeting. If there's anything else anyone would like to add at this point, please let us know. We do appreciate those who are interested in this, and we do want to reassure people that we are not rushing to judgment on what we're doing here. We're trying to be very, very deliberative with this process. Well, seeing that there's no one else that is raising any issues, okay, we have Christopher M.G. from the Bloomington Chamber of Commerce, sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners. I think it is evening now. This is Christopher M.G. from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce, and I just want to thank you for putting this joint meeting together and for some of the public outreach you've had on the Thompson location. And the Chamber does not have an opinion on where that site should be. I think it's just important that we do get a site of a new justice campus, and that good is not the enemy of great. And having gone to these meetings enough to know that it's not going to be perfect for all parties involved, whether that's too close to the city, too far away from the city, there's always going to be issues. So it comes down to sort of addressing those, whatever site you take, and to meet the public's need on what that facility looks like and what that encompasses. I thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Well then, as we adjourn, I want to thank everyone who is in attendance tonight. I also want to repeat the fact that commissioners want to let everyone know they can email us. This would be at commissioners@co.monroe.in.us. It is our desire to be as transparent as possible with all this. Did you want to say something, Ms. Purdy, before we conclude here? This is...
Yes, I'm terribly sorry. The email is actually commissioner's office
okay.
at co.monroe.in.us.
Okay, thank you for that correction. Commissioner's office at co.monroe.in.us, and you can also find that contact information on the county website. And with that, unless you have anything else, this meeting is adjourned. And thank you, everyone, again.
Thank you.